All right, welcome back to the YouTube channel. All right, so today we are looking at Okta for cybersecurity professionals. This video is going to be a very short video. Wherever you are watching me from, whether you're watching me from America or you're watching me from Asia or Africa, and you are in cybersecurity, this video is for you and is really going to help you. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video is because sometimes, like, you can be a cybersecurity professional, you are in a company, the company is going for an IDP tool or an IAM tool, and then everybody in the organization has to learn how the tool works, and Okta is the leader when it comes to identity and access management. So I'm doing this video for the cybersecurity professionals so that it can help you guys to know to know the security features of Okta. I'm not really going to go into the deeper stuff in Okta. We are going to look at only the basic stuff and also the security aspect of it, so that it can help you if you are in the cybersecurity. If you're a cybersecurity professional or specialist of your company, all right. So first of all, this is the Okta website. You want to know what an Okta is, so just a little bit explanation. Okta is in the IAM space. When I talk about IAM, I mean identity and access management, and Okta is the leader when it comes to identity and access management. So I'll just go to this website and then show you like what Okta is and what they do. Now, the reason why I'm on this side is just to help you, so that if you want to read more about Okta, you can come to this side and then read more about Okta. So now the first thing is that, well, Okta is an enterprise-grade identity management service built for the cloud, but compatible with many on-prem applications. Many on-prem applications. Now with Okta, IT can manage any employee's access to any application or devices. Okta runs in the cloud on a secure, reliable, extensive audited platform which integrates deeply with on-premises applications, directories, and identity management systems. So basically, Okta integrated with other cloud applications, and it also helps to manage user identity. So at the end of the day, the IT department can manage employees' access to different applications in the organization, and I'm going to show you practical hands-on on how this thing is done. So, for example, let's say the company has different SaaS applications that is using. You can integrate those applications with Okta and then assign those applications to the users, and then you can also configure security policies for the users, like who is supposed to have access to what application and who is not supposed to have access to what application. So it is the IAM engineer guys who do all these things, or let's say the Okta engineer guys who do all these things. The security guys can also do it. Right now, when you look at the architecture here, it shows the applications, that is how Okta is integrated with other applications. So now the first thing here is on-premises application. So if your company has their own built application, you can integrate that application into Okta. Okta also integrates with other cloud applications like Google, Workday, Microsoft 365, Box, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Amazon. At the same time, now, even though these are all integrated into Okta, Okta helps with the management in terms of access. So that's the first thing. Then now the other thing is that talks about the users. So now you can Okta also can be used to manage devices on the Okta network. So for example, let's say you have maybe mobile phones or computers. Okta can manage those devices, and also as a security person, you can define policies to manage those devices. So Okta can also serve as an MDM tool, but just that the feature of that particular feature is a little bit different from Microsoft Intune. Now, when you look at Microsoft Intune, there's a lot of features in Microsoft Intune, but when it comes to Okta, it's not that deep when it comes to that, right? So The other thing is that the features of Okta include provisioning, single sign-on, Active Directory, LDAP integration, the centralized the provision of users, MFA, mobile identity management, and also flexible policies for organization security and control. So basically, this is just the basic definition of Okta, and Okta does a lot of steps, right? So as a security professional, this is just the intro definition of Okta and what Okta does. Now, I'm going to show you the architecture of Okta and how Okta works. So the other thing is that whenever you start a company, maybe the company wants to go in for Okta. For Okta to operate in a company, the IAM engineer guys, or the Okta engineer, or the Okta architect, or the IAM architect has to build the architecture. The Okta architecture for the organization is very, very important. So if the architecture is not built, it will be very difficult to know how Okta is operating in the company. So as a cybersecurity professional, one of your duties is to look at the architecture. The architecture will show you how things are working in the organization in terms of application and also in terms of assets. So I'm going to show you some pictures about the Okta architecture so that it can help you to know how the architecture is. Let me go to downloads and then bring the first one here. All right. So first of all, when you look at this is not really an Okta architecture. Basically, this is the normal process of how we used to do things. Now, before Okta, whenever users are trying to get access to, let's say, Salesforce, Zendesk, or even an on-prem applications, normally you have to create an account for the users in Salesforce. So you have to create an account for each user in the organization. So each user will have a username and password. If the company is also using, let's say, Zendesk, you have to create a username and password for the user data store. So basically, the Salesforce, Zendesk, what they are all user data store, you have to be creating account for each user. So if a user wants to get access to Salesforce, the person has to type in the username and the password. If the person has to get into Zendesk, they have to type in their username and password. And also, if the person has to get access to the on-prem applications, the person has to type in the username and password. So this is how we used to do things, and now IAM tools now came to the scene to help eradicate or to take off all this stuff from here. So now IAM comes in play to take off all this stuff, right? So now Okta has to come in, right, to solve this issue. So that was a problem. This was the problem. Now users have to always use the same password to get access to this. So because sometimes it's very hectic that the user will create the same password for Salesforce, they use the same, create a different password for Zendesk, create a different password for other applications, and it was very, very hard. So because of that, now Okta comes in and then take off all this issue from there, right? So here is Okta. Now with Okta in place, what happens is that if the users are trying to get access to Salesforce, their account will be created. What we call it, the account that has to be created for Salesforce will no longer be needed. The account that has to be created for Zendesk will not be needed. The account that has to be created in order to get access to the on-prem application will not be needed, because Okta will solve that problem. So whenever the users whenever you create an account for the users, or let's say the users are imported from Salesforce into Okta, they can use the same username and password to get access to Salesforce, Zendesk, and also the on-prem applications, right? So that is the first. And now let me show you the third one also. So basically, this is how it works. So all these SaaS applications can be integrated into Okta. So the users, let's say the company users, they first of all have to go through using their username and then their password to get access to Okta. So they have to first of all access Okta. When they access the Okta login interface, Okta will verify the identity of the user before the user is granted access to these applications. Now, if the user want to get access to the on-prem application, the user does not need to verify his or her identity. While the user is still in Okta, the user can then get access to the on-prem activities, the on-prem applications, without going through to type in another username or password. So basically, that is how it works. Now let's look at this architecture. This is for a different company. This is another company's architecture. Normally, this is the actual architecture that has to be designed based on how your company is set up, how your IT infrastructure is set up. That is how you're going to design your Okta. You don't just design the Okta architecture. You have to look at how you want how you want your users to get access to Okta. If you have on-prem applications, or if you are using Active Directory, or if you are using Azure AD, how do you want the users to get access to these applications? So now when you look at this architecture here, this is your company's network and this is the internet. Now Okta serves as the middleman, but Okta is also part of the internet. So when you look at your network, let's say for example your company, you have Active Directory on-prem, right? Now if you have Active Directory as your data store, you have to integrate your Active Directory into Okta so that the users that you've created in Active Directory can get access to the Okta dashboard and then get access to these applications. So in order to do this, in order to integrate this your Active Directory into Okta, you need to install what we call the Okta AD agent on the Active Directory. So let's say on your server, right, you have to install the Okta AD agent on your server and then configure the AD to allow Okta to get access to the Active Directory and also Active Directory to get access to Okta. Normally, whenever you set up the Okta AD agent, what is going to happen is that you can import all the groups and then the users in Active Directory into Okta, so that the users here, the local users, can now get access to Okta. So basically, what happens is that you are not going to create the users in the users of the company. The users in the company in Okta. So if you already have the users account created in Active Directory, you don't need to create the same account for the users in Okta. You just have to import the users into Okta, and then you can provision the applications to the users. So that is so that is the first thing. Now the second thing is that if you have remote users who are not supposed to, let's say, go through the local Active Directory, but they are remote users, the remote users will just go straight up into, let's say, to their Okta sign-in page, get access to Okta, and then go straight to use the application that has been integrated with the company. So for example, let's say you don't have Active Directory on-prem, but you are a cloud-based company. So let's say you are fully cloud, you use Azure AD. Now if you use Azure AD, what happens is that normally Azure AD is part of Office 365. So Office 365 users and groups, you can integrate Office 365 into Okta and then import the users from Azure AD, and then also import your groups into Okta. So if the user is a remote user, the user will have the username and password depending on the policy that you've created. The user can be in India, the user can be in China, wherever the user is. The user can get access to the company's Okta tenant, and then use the applications and then work. So this is very, 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 nice. So basically, the reason why I'm showing you this architecture is very simple. is because so that you will know how the company how the Okta is set up. Because if the Okta architecture is not designed, it will become very difficult for you to know how things are working or how the flow is. So you can see that here with all this with this architecture, you can see that we have the local users, we have the Okta AD agent. So the local users go through Okta. Normally, yes, they are from the Active Directory, and then they get access to the Okta dashboard, and then they can use applications. But they don't go through the AD agents. No, what happens is that the Active Directory is integrated into Okta using the Okta agent, the Okta AD agent. So the local users don't go through here, don't go to Active Directory and then go to the Okta AD agent to Okta. No, they go straight because they are using the account has already been integrated into Okta. So they go through here straight up and then get access and then get access to the application that will be assigned to them. So that is the architecture, this architecture. So probably maybe you might be in a company. This might be the exactly what we call it, the same architecture that you have on-prem. If this is how your company is set up, then this will be the architecture. But if your company is a fully cloud-based company, then you will not need the Okta AD agent or the Active Directory. You will need the Azure AD what do we call it, cloud here, so that it will be for everybody in the organization, right? So that is architecture. Now let's go to the Okta dashboard actually, so that you can see what we're looking for. Now, if you want to sign up, if you like what I'm going to show you, if you want to practice it, if you want to use Okta or like get to know like deeper things about Okta, you have to sign up for a free trial, a 30-day free trial. So when you come to the Okta website, which is the okta.com, you come to free trial, and then you can put in your first name, last name, first name, last name, email. But the email has to be a work email. If it is a normal Gmail, it's not going to work. So you have to put in a work email, and you have a phone number, your country, and then you can start a free trial. So Okta will give you a 30-day free trial, and then you can be doing, almost whatever the tutorial or exercise that, or what we call it, learning that you want to, things that you want to study in Okta. You can use that 30 days free trial to study Okta, right? So currently, I already have my what do we call it, my tenant setup. Let me show you how to log in into Okta. Okay. So the first thing will be that I have to log in into Okta. All right. So whenever you log in into Okta, this is going to be your this is going to be your dashboard. Now let me bring you something. Let me show you something else. Okay, back to sign in. Oh. All right. So whenever you sign into Okta, this is where your applications are going to be, right? This is where your applications are going to be, and then you can go ahead and then select the application that you want to use it to work, right? And as we go through that, I will show you how it is. All right. So the next thing is that if you are a security professional, if you're a cybersecurity professional, normally you'll be assigned the admin role, depending on the privileges that the IAM engineer or the IAM manager will give you. So you have this here, and then you can see the admin button here. So when you click on this, it should take you to the admin console. This is normally it will not ask you for a password, but because of the policies that I have, that is the reason why it's asking me for to verify my identity before I get to the admin console. But normally, whenever you start, like whenever you get access to it for the first time, it will not ask you it will not ask you to verify your identity before you get to the admin console. But as the recommendation from Okta, is always good that you need to secure the admin console, because this is where almost everything goes on, right? So whenever you log into the admin console, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see on your dashboard, you're going to see the number of users will be here, the number of groups that you've created, the number of single sign-on application that you've integrated will also be showing here. You see the Okta service and then Okta agent. When you come here, this place will be the task that maybe like you are supposed to do, which is application accounts need provisioning. Some users are logged out, and the application can be updated to use provisioning. Here will also be the organization changes, so update policy, rule, global session policy. So any changes that you make, all those changes will be here. The person who made those changes, their names and everything is going to show up here for you. Okta also has this security feature called the security monitoring. So whatever is going on in the Okta system, Okta is going to show you here. So here, this health insight actually gives you some recommendations, or some security recommendation by Okta that needs to be done. So you can go ahead and then do those stuffs, and then you can see that if it is highly secured, or if all the tasks is completed, here will be 100%. So we'll get this, we'll get into it later, right? Then we also have the application. So this is the app authentication protocol that Okta have. It's on the secure web application, the Samuel and OIDC. Then when you come here, there's the app sign-in data. So this is the Okta dashboard, and then Okta admin console. The sign-ins total is, for the dashboard, is 3, and then the sign-in total for the admin console, this one, which is 1, that is me. This is the rate limit monitoring. Now this is the dashboard. When you come to the task here, so this, I'm just giving you the basic. You're not going into too much stuff. So this will be the things that you're supposed to do, and then look at the agent. You look at notifications. So if you want to, for example, if you want to send messages to the users, let me real quick. I don't know why this thing is not working. All right. So when you come to notifications here, notification is, for example, let's say if you want to send a message to everybody in the organization, or you want to send a message to only one person in the organization, this is where you can send a notification. Now, what I mean is that, let me show you real quick. This is the sign-in. This is the dashboard for Chris. This person is called Chris. Chris is a user. So, for example, if you want to send information, maybe there's a new integration for Okta, you can come to send new messages here. We have sent to everyone, groups, and then users. So here you can specify one person, and then you can send, let's say I want to send it to Chris. So this is Chris. I can send a message and say, hi Chris, I have assigned a new app for you. I have assigned a new app. Oh, okay, I've assigned, okay, a new app to your account. Let me just make it to your account. So I can send this to Chris, and now when you come here, so when Chris comes to whenever Chris comes to work, and then Chris sign into his Okta dashboard, the notification here, the notification is going to appear here, and then you can click on it and you will see this. Hi Chris, I have assigned a new app to your account. So Chris will see this notification. All right, so that is it. Now the other thing is that you go to get started, things that you have to do with Okta and that kind of stuff, right? Now when you come to directory basically talks about a database of Okta. So here when you come to people, this is where you can go ahead and then create a new add a new user to the directory. Just a minute, click on, yeah, so this is where you can add a new user. So first name, last name, username, what do you call it? The username always has to be the email, the primary email, and then the groups, and then you can go ahead and then activate it now. So for example, I can go ahead and then let's say, let me call the person Mark Nano, and the person would be like, let's say Mark .ano at techbit.microsoft.com. So I can go ahead and then activate the person's account or activate it later, or I can activate it now, and then I can set the password. Now one thing is that you can create the account, right? You can create the account, and then what happened is that let me just go ahead and then, okay, so you can create the account, activate the account, and then create a password for the user. So when you create a password for the user, whenever you are sending an email to the user will use the password to get access to it, and then the user will then go ahead and then change the password. So let me call this password F. All right, and then go to save. All right, so now the user, whenever you create, you have to refresh the page before the user will join. So basically this is how it is. Password expired. All right, great. So now if you want to, let's say, reset this person's password, you can come here, and then or maybe if the person tells you that, well, he or she did not receive the email to reset the password, anything like that, or get into the account, you can click on resend password email, and then this will be to send a reset password email, or create a temporary password, or sign out user. So basically you can say that, well, I want to create a password, a temporary password, and then you can send that password to the user, or you can send a reset password email to the user, and then there you can select this one. When you select this, it's going to sign the user out of any of all sessions, and then you can go click on reset password, and the email will be sent to the person. The other thing is that when you look at here, you can reset authenticators for, like, for example, if there's any authenticators that you have implemented in the organization, you can reset authenticator. If you want to clear the user session, so this particular user, Mark Eno, if you want to clear his session, you can click on this and then clear the person's session. When you look at suspend simply means that, like, as you know, the term suspension, it doesn't mean that you've deleted or deactivated the person. Suspension simply means that you have put a hold on the person's account. So when I click on suspension, now the person's account is suspended. So this Mark here cannot get access to the Okta, to his Okta tenant, right? Basically. Now, if normally we do this whenever, let's say, for example, Mark has traveled. Let's say Mark is on vacation, right? When Mark is on vacation, you have to put Mark's account in suspension, so that so that people, any attacker will not try to use his account, because whenever Mark is on vacation, normally what happens is that when people are on vacation, they don't really check their work emails. So if somebody is trying to get access to Mark's account, Mark's will not even bother or mind. So normally it's very, very important that you put a user account in suspension. So when Mac resume work, you just have to just click on activate, and when you click on activate, Mac's account will be activated, and then any application that is assigned to Mac can go ahead and then use it. Now the other one is deactivate. So deactivation happens whenever a user is leaving the company. So whenever a new the user is leaving the company, you can click on deactivate, and then what happens is it's going to tell you that, are you sure you want to deactivate Mac? Once deactivated, this person cannot sign in to Okta to access the applications. You can always reactivate this person's account at a later time. So you click on deactivate. Now, when you click on deactivate here, when you come to the people, the directory here, you can see that it's showing that Mac account has been deactivated, right? So Mac account has been deactivated. The other one is that so that as we read it, Mac cannot get access to it. Now, when you pick Mac's account, you can delete Mac from the organization if you don't want to delete Mac account. So normally what we do is that we create a group called deactivated or leavers. So the people who have left the company, we create a group, and then we can put all those people in that group, right? For future audits or anything like that. You don't just delete the person's account, no. So basically that's what happens. Now that's for the users part. Now when you come here to, you can see two things. You can also import user from a CSV file. So if you have a CSV document, you can import the users. You can deactivate, expire password, unlock people. So whenever a user tells you that, oh, my account has been locked out, you can come and then unlock the person from here, right? Now the next thing has to do with groups. I'm just giving you the basics, right? I'm just giving the basics. Then we can go to the security aspect, because that's what I wanted to show you. Now we have groups. So groups here, this is where you can go ahead and then create a new group called the security professional group, or the security professionals. Then you can really put the description. It's just optional, like this group is for the security professional, or it's for the security team. Let me just make it's for the security team. So you can go ahead and then click save. Now let me refresh the page a little bit, and then you can see. So here, this is it. Now if I want to add somebody to the security group, I can open the group, and on right here I can go to assign people, click on assign people, and I come and look for the people that I want. So I have James Arno here. I can go ahead and then click on this plus icon, and then James will be added to the group. So when I come to groups and then I come to the security group, you can see that this is James. So James is added to the group, right? That's one way. We have the manual way, and we also have the group rule to do that, but that's not what I'm going to show. I'm just showing the basics of it. The other way that you can also do this is that when you go to people and you want to add maybe a security professional to a group, for example, if it is, let's say, Chris, you can click on Chris, and when you come to groups here, you can search for the group, which is security, and then you click on it, and then the security group becomes part of Chris Penn's group. So when you come to groups again and you come to security group, you can see that Chris is added to the security group. So that is for the group part. Now this verse is not, well, I'm not really going to go into this. This is not really important. Now let's go to the security side. This is the most important place. All right. So as I said earlier, I said that this is just going to be for the just the basis of it, but we are looking at the security aspect of it. So now let's come to security. So here, when you look on on your side here, you can see all the tabs that you'll be working with. So the security side is very, very important when you get into Okta. Now, the first thing is the general. So we have the general security settings that needs to be done. Normally, whenever any company is sign up for Okta for the first time, all these ones will be disabled. Yes, whenever a company sign up for Okta for the first time, all this will be disabled. So you, the security professional, you have to know what this means. So now let's start with this. This is the security notification emails. So the first one is the new sign-on notification email. So normally end users receive an email notification if they sign in from a new or unrecognized client. And then this email contains sign-on details such as, let's say, a web browser, an operating system used to sign in, addition to the time and the location of where the person signed into. Let me see if I can show you something real quick. Let me check something real quick here. All right. So when you look at this one here, this is Chris. Okay, let me go back to the dashboard. Oh, reload this. Oh, just a minute. Let me come back here and then come to my application. Okay, yes. So this is Chris, right? So whenever Chris signed into his account, what happens is that the Okta system records it. So the Okta records everything where the user, where Chris signed into, the location, the browser, and everything. Now, when you come to Chris recent activities, normally you can prevent the user from looking at this recent activities sign up report. So you can see that here, this is showing you my device. It is also showing you the browser that I use, which is Chrome. It is showing you the operating system that I'm using to sign in, that Chris used to sign in. The last sign in was 14 minutes ago. The last location is near Tempe. The total sign-in is 6. So now report to admin. So when you click on this, I can get the what do we call it? I can get the report of this. And when you look at here, it talks about it shows you the device, one device be signing, say signings, and then since December 7th. So from the day that the person signing into Okta will show you for the first time the person signing into Okta using this particular device and this browser is December 7th, 2023. So with this here, what happens is that if Chris signing for the first time, this email, so for example, let's say Chris account, right? Let's say Chris account has been tampered, and then the new person, the attacker, has signed into Chris account. What happens is that if this one is enabled, Chris will receive an email an email that somebody has signed in into his account. So normally this is very, very important that you enable it. Normally the default one is disabled. So whenever a new person, a new device, but the limitation is that whenever Chris sign in using a different browser, Chris is going to receive a notification that a new browser has signed into your account. Basically, it can be Chris, but just that Chris will be notified by an email that he has logged into the account. And this feature is very good. So you have to always make sure that you enable this feature, because if this feature is not enabled, an attacker signs into the person's account, the person cannot receive an email in order to submit suspicious activity report to the security guys, for the security guys to look into the issue. So always this one has to be enabled. All right. Now the second one has to do with password change notification email. So whenever the user himself or the administrator changes the password or reset the password, the user will receive an email that the admin has reset the password, or somebody has reset the password, or has changed the password. When that happens, the user will receive an email and the user can send a suspicious report to the security team. So this one is also very important. You have to enable this. So whenever you join a new company and they have Okta, this is the first place you have to come and look at, because they might not know. So you, the Okta engineer or the security professional, you have to come and look at this. Now the second one has to do with authenticator and role notification email. Now with the authenticator and role notification email, now the end user will receive a confirmation email if they or the admin enrolled in the new factor for the account. So the user will receive an email if the admin or if the user himself or the admin enroll the user in a new authenticator, right? So this one is also very good, because if the attacker is trying to make some changes on the person's authentications, when I talk about authentication, let me show you something real quick so that you will know if the person has enrolled into a new authenticator. When you come to here, when you come to settings, right? So settings, this is the security methods that we use to authenticate into Okta. So here we have the password and we have the Okta verify. So if you want to make changes, you can click on edit. It's going to ask me to verify my identity, and the reason why it's doing this is because of the security policy that I have created. That is the reason why it's asking me to verify my identity. So yes, all right. So if I want to reset the password, so if the attacker, so with the password reset, if the attacker get into the account, the attacker can go ahead and reset this password. When the person reset this password, then what is going to happen is that the user will receive an email. If the attacker goes and then set up another Okta verify for verification, the user will receive an email. So this is very, very important. All right. Okay. So this one is also very important. So you have to always enable this one. Okay, great. Now the third one has to do with, let me see. Okay, authenticator reset notification email. So basically just like what I showed you. Now this one has to also be enabled. Now the report suspicious activity via email. Now this feature, the reason why this feature is enabled, I think default is enabled, because whenever the Okta systems recognize some kind of suspicious activities or anything going on, for example, or if the user see some kind of suspicious activity going on, just like what I showed you earlier on this side. Let me go to recent activity. So the user can click on report, and then when the user click on the, I don't want to show my IP address. So for example, if the user said that, well, I don't really recognize I don't really recognize this sign in. So you see that it shows the sign in details, the IP address, the time, and everything. So if the user realizes that, oh, I don't really know this activity, then the user can click on report, and then the administrator, so sign activity was successfully reported to your admin. So the admin is going to receive what do we call it? The admin is going to receive let me go ahead and see if I can show you the email that came in. Depending on the admin or the channel that that you've integrated into Okta, a report is going to come in. Maybe, for example, let's say if you have a security group email attached to the Okta settings, what is going to happen is that the email is going to come to that security group, and then the security group will definitely see the email. Now let me show you what came to their account. So this is suspicious account. So you see that here Irene is the admin for is the Okta admin. Now, when Chris reported the issue, this is the email that came in. So it says the first one is the Tech by Microsoft, the tenant account. So this is going to be the tenant account, and we have the activity reported by a user. So here, this is an email that's been created by Okta. It says a user from your organization has reported a suspicious activity on their account. So the name of the user will be Chris Penn. The login credentials will be here, and as a reported activity that is new device signing. So the reported activity, the special activity will be the new device signing, and then activity details can be viewed in the system log. So when you click on review security event, it is going to take you straight to the Okta system logs, and then you can see here that the person, the attacker, that based on whatever the issue is, you can view the security aspect here in the system logs that Chris was able to sign into the account, but it might not be Chris, it might be the attacker. So then you can click on here and expand it, and you can see the full details. So here you can see that this is Chris, this is the ID of Chris. Now this ID of Chris, let me show you. When you come to the Okta tenant here, you come to people, and you come to, let me pick Chris. So the last one here, this one. So this numbers and letters here make it is the ID for Chris, right? So when you come to the report, this is the actor. So this is the actor. The client is Chrome, and then it's Windows 10 computer, and it gives you the IP address. Then the event will be successful, right? Because the attacker was able to get into the account. Now, when you expand this a little bit, you click on this, it's going to expand for you, and then you click on the client. It's going to show you the client. It's going to show you the location where the person signed into. Is going to show sign into the account. Is going to show you the IP address. It's going to show you the user, the agent, and also going to show you the what we call it. When you click on the user agent, is going to even expand more for you to see the OS, the operating system, the browser, and then you can go ahead and then do what we call it, do the checkups, right? So when you click on request, the IP chain, I'm not going there, but when you look at the target, right, the target will be this. It will show you the authentication method, the authentication method that the user used to get into into Chris account will be the Okta Verify, and the other one will be the target. Another target will be the Okta. That when you click on the target like this is going to expand a little bit for you to see the ID, the authentication method again, and then the other target will be the dashboard. So this is going to be the dashboard and the app instead. So this is like a full detail. You can also go ahead and then download it, right? You can download it, and then let me go ahead and download it so that you see. So I don't have Excel, so I'm not sure I'll be able to see. Let me see. Let's see if it's going to show up. Okay, let me just 1 second. Great. So when I get the Excel sheet, you see that it's showing me the severity, the event type, the display, username, and everything. The outcome was successful. The actor ID, which is the user ID, it will show you the user ID, and then the actor display name will be this person. The actor display, right. Let's go back to security. All right. Okay. So that was the report suspicious activity that I showed you. Now the next one is the capture integration. So you can integrate this, but this one you don't. It's not really important, so you don't have to add the capture to it. Now this will be the organization security. This is very important. Normally these are all enabled. Yeah. But what you have to change is that now we see that here it says remember user on sign in is enabled, which is great. Show option for keep me sign in, which is also enabled. for the user. Now the activation emails are valid for 180 days. So you have to go in and change this. Now Okta recommend that at least it has to be 7 days, because normally the reason why the activation emails are valid for 7 days is simple. When the new person joins the company, right? When a new person joins the company, you have to send an email to the user at home. So to the Gmail account. Now the user might be starting maybe in the next 4 days or in the next 3 days or anything like that. So whenever you create an account for the user, is going to send an email to the user. Now the user have within 7 days to activate that particular email to activate the account. So you don't have to set it to 180 days. You have to send it to 7 days, depending on when the user is going to start, right? So always make sure that at least you put it in 7 days deep. And if the user is going to start in the next, let's say in the next 2 weeks, but it has to be 7 days, because the only time you create the account for the user is after you've confirmed that the user is starting work, and the user will be starting work maybe in the next 2 weeks. If it is the next 2 weeks, you can set up a schedule for it so that an email can be sent to the user, right? So always make sure that you put this one on 7 days. Now we have enforced device banning for creating sessions. So yes, this one has to always be enabled for the device to bind with a session that be created. Now we have the username match criteria sign on allows. So we have the match entire username or allow short match. Always put it here. Then normally this is on default. The user can review the recent activity. So with this, if I click on this not enabled, what happens is that the user, for example, if I come to Mac here, I come to my apps. Let me refresh it up. Let me refresh it a little bit so that it can take effect. When I come here, you see that you don't have the recent activity, so the user cannot really report any suspicious activity. So I'm sure you might ask me, should it be on? The answer is yes. So always make sure that you put it on, so that the users can report any suspicious activity, just like the exercise that we did earlier, right? So this one has to be enabled. So enabling this feature allows users to review recent sign-ins and security events on the Okta end user dashboard, like I showed you earlier. Now let's come to this side. So this is the user enumeration prevention. Let me pull something real quick and then show it to you. The user enumeration prevention. All right, so with the user enumeration prevention, when this feature is enabled, your organization is protected against attackers who attempt to identify user account and authenticator enrollment. So every new device login will show the password and email if email authentication is allowed in the organization. So basically what this one is saying is that it helps to prevent attackers who try to identify users account and they authenticate and also authenticate enrollment. So whenever you enable this, like for example your authentication, if you enable this, normally what is going to happen is that it's going to show the whenever a new device whenever a new device is trying to get access into a user account, it is going to show the password and email. If only, let's say for example, you have enabled email to be part of the authentication. So let me show you something. If you come to remote here, so like email, this one, if I decide to make email as required, right? If I put email as required, when the user is signing in for the first time, it's going to show for the user. Let me show you a picture of it, right? So this is how it's going to look like. So if just a minute, where is my browser? So if I enable, let me go to general. All right, so if I enable authentication like this and then recovery, what happened is that, so for example, if I do recovery and then when the user is signing in, the email is going to show. So let me bring my server and then show you how this thing. So let's say the person is logging in from a new device. An attacker, let's say an attacker is logging in from a new device. Let me back to sign in, refresh the page. So Chris is trying to sign in right now. You see that here the password is showing. Now if I decide that I don't want to, if I decide that I don't want this, I want to uncheck this, let me click on save. And now let's go and then let's go back to sign in. Let me refresh the browser a little bit so that the effect can take place. So now if the attacker, let's say the attacker is called Chris. Now this attacker has gotten our email, Chris username. So when he clicks on this, you see that it's showing which one he has to use to authenticate. Either they get the push notification or enter a code. The reason is because when you look at the settings here, I have set the settings to I have disabled authentication and then recovery part, right? So basically what happens is that now the user, the attacker has to choose which one. So now the question is, should it be enabled? Yes, because if you don't enable it, then it means that the person, what do we call it? The password is not going to show. If let's say if a new user who works from home had decided to go to the office and the person has taken let's say a loaner device, and the person is maybe working from the office, the person is trying to get access to it. Now the password is not going to show for the person to type in the password. So always you have to just enable it, right? You click on save. Now if I come here again, I come to back in and I click on sign in. Now the password will then site will show up so that I can go ahead and then enter the password. All right, so the other one here is detect logout caused by unknown device. This has to also be on. So now this feature here improves account logout behavior by adding the ability to block suspicious sign-in attempts from a known device. So users who log into Okta with devices they have used before will not be blocked out when unknown device calls logout. So basically what this particular security feature simply means, that I think that you understood it. Whenever a new device causes an account logout, so for example, let's say an attacker is trying to use a brute force attack on the user and the user account is logged out, what happens is that the Okta system will block that particular IP address or that particular person from getting access to it. Now what happens when you look at it, the second part here, it says that users who log into Okta with devices they have used before will not be logged out. So what happens is that whenever a user consistently logs into Okta, right, Okta has some kind of has a technology that signals everything. Like I've forgotten the name, but what happens is that whenever a user in an organization logs into Okta with one particular computer, the Okta system records everything about that particular device and everything about that device. So Okta get to know who that person is. So every activity that the person does, Okta will record it. The system will just record everything. So Okta will know that, oh, that device is actually for the user. So if it is the user who got logged on as a result of maybe different trial failures, the person will not actually be logged out basically. So but if the device is a new device, then that is when the person will not be blocked. But if the device is a new device that is sending a what we call brute force attack on the user's account, then that particular person will be considered as suspicious, and then Okta will block the person. So as you see, is that the feature improve account logout behavior by adding the ability to block suspicious sign-in attempt from a known device. So this is just for a known device. So this feature has to be turned on. So go ahead and turn this one on. All right. So now we come to the last part. The last part is what we call the Okta threat insight. Now, the Okta Threat Insight is very, very important. Authentication requests from IPs exhibiting suspicious behavior that suggests malicious activity can be logged in the system. So whatever, any suspicious IPs that the Okta system recognizes, Okta is going to log that suspicious IP or the suspicious activity in the Okta system. Now, it's very, very important. Normally, on default, it will be set to log authentication attempt from malicious IPs. Now, with this one here as a log authentication attempt from malicious IPs, what happens is that the threat insight will record information about the signing attempt from potentially malicious IP addresses in the system log, but it will not really block that IP. So if you really want to enforce it to block that suspicious IP or the malicious activities, or to block the suspicious IP, what happens is that you have to put it on log and enforce security based on threat level. Normally, whenever you set up the Okta account, it will be set to the default as the log authentication attempt for malicious IPs. Now, with this one, with the third one, let me just click on edit and then put it here. With the third one here, log and enforce security based on threat level. Now, the threat insight here, if you select this one, what is going to happen is that the threat insight can limit or block authentication requests from suspicious IP addresses based on the threat level detected. So, for example, if a specific IP address is suspected of malicious activity, but the threat level is considered low, authentication requests from the IP address aren't denied access but might be subject to a rate limit. Right, so the rate limit helps ensure that requests from a suspicious IP address don't overload authentication services and affect legitimate traffic. So with the option to limit access requests from suspicious IP addresses, the threat insight can reduce the risk of malicious activity without blocking access for legitimate users. So basically, what happens is that whenever the what we call it, the system records any suspicious activity or malicious activity, the threat insight can reduce the risk of that malicious activity without blocking access for the legitimate users. However, if an IP address is suspected of malicious activity and the threat level detected is high, then authentication requests from the IP address will be blocked. But the other thing is that you can always exclude, let's say, network zones. So for example, let's say if you go to the office to work. So if you go to the office, definitely there will be a setup for in-network, that is for the corporate network. So with the corporate network, you can put the gateway here so that it will be excluded. So whenever the person is logging in from, sometimes a user activity can be identified as, let's say, as a suspicious activity depending on the threat level. So if the threat level is high, Okta might block that particular IP address, but maybe that IP address is coming from the corporate side. Maybe the person is in the office, right? And in the office, if you're not an employee, there is no way that you can go to the office network and work. So basically, what happens is that you can put an exemption so that you can put the gateways here so that Okta will not block that particular IP address for the user. So that's one of the things that you can do. So let me go ahead and save this. So let's say if I have created a network zone for the corporate, I can go ahead and then specify the corporate network zone, which will be the corporate network zone. Now, the corporate network zone is something that I've already created, and when we come to networks, I will show you. Right. So that is it. All right. This session, I think, is almost an hour for doing this video. Let me check the time. An hour and 6 minutes. Wow. All right, but I hope that you are learning something. All right. So now the second part is the health insight. Now the health insight dashboard actually shows you some recommendation, the things that you're supposed to do. So for example, I have more than 75% of admins have super admin privileges. So Okta has marked it as critical. So I have to go and then check the list. So as you can see that more than 75% of admins have super super admin privileges. When I click on here, on this arrow, it will show me, they said admins should be assigned minimal permissions. Your org contains more super admins than most orgs of your size, and Okta recommends reviewing your admin list to identify users that requires super. So when you come to learn how to change admin permissions, it will take you there. But the action, whenever you see this here, you can go to the admin list, and then here this will show you the total admin guys, the individual that have been assigned, the groups with, let's say you can create a group and then give the group an admin privileges. You can also create your own custom rules and create your own custom resource. So when you come to admins here, it's going to show you the number of people who are admins, right? And then if you want to edit, let's say for example, if I want to edit this person, I can go ahead and edit the person's assignment so that the person doesn't really become a super admin. I can give this person, let's say, an organization administrator, and then click save changes, right? And then you see that it has changed to organizational administrator. So this is part of the security thing that you would do as a cybersecurity professional. So this is Chris Payne, organizational administrator, right? Okay. Let's go to the trading side. So now you see that when I corrected it, it has moved to complete. When you come to the completed tab or complete tab, you see that it is showing that I've made some changes to it, right? So that is it. The incomplete ones are here. Then I can click on this one and it will take me to the page, and I can make the changes. And normally whenever you are doing it, the health inside will start increasing. We see that when we first go to the dashboard, it was 65, and now it has increased to 85%. So my account is looking healthy, right? So then the next thing is that we come to authenticators. Now with authenticators, it shows it shows you whatever authenticators that you want the people in the organization to use, and this is very, very important. So we have what we call the email, which is possession, and when you look at the NIST or the NIST policy or standard, you are not supposed to use email or password. Like whenever you are implementing MFA, it has to be what we call it has to be a biometric possession and also plus biometric, right? So with authenticators, we have whenever you set up, there will be 3 default authenticators. That will be the email, the Okta Verify, and the password. When you click on add authenticator, you can come in here and then add any of the authenticators. So for example, if you want to add a security as part of your authenticators, you can click on add security, and you can pick this one, authentication and the recovery. All right, so the security question here, and then whenever you are setting up your authentication policy or your global, whenever you are doing the enrollment, you can do the enrollment here and say that, well, you want everybody to use, let's say, the security question, right? I'll come back here, but let me go back a little bit. So you can add a security question depending on whatever that you want. You can add SMS if you want your users to add SMS. You can add what does it say? Oh, okay, yeah. Okta will send a security token for once you have successfully set up an in-link hook. This action will automatically refresh. If not, please refresh this page. All right, I don't want to do this. All right, but like I hope you get the idea. So whatever, if you want to do Google Authenticator, you can add a Google Authenticator to it. So when you come to enrollment, so the enrollment side is how the users should verify the identity to get access to the Okta tenant, right? How the users should verify the identity to get access to the Okta tenant. This is very important. So you come to enrollment, and normally when you look at the default policy, always the password will be required, right? But I have already done that at once. So for example, let's say how you want your users to get access to the Okta tenant. So for example, when I click on edit here, and I say that I want the users to, let me just disable the Okta Verify because that was what we were using earlier. So let's say I want the users to um I want users to, let's say, use the password and also a security question. Let me say security question required, and let me disable this, or even let me just say optional. But normally, I would advise that you should never use email as form of authenticator. It is never good, right? But let me just say that if let me just say, okay, let me disable the security and let me use email as required. So the two required will be the password and then the email, right? So whenever we create a new user, right, whenever we create a new user, so let me go ahead and update the policy. All right, so now like I was saying earlier, okay, so if you want to get rid of this, you can click on actions and then click on delete, and then this will delete this one. So cannot remove security question this time. The reason is because I think that I haven't disabled it yet, but let me come here and then look at it. So the reason why it's not being able to delete is because when you look at the admin authenticator policy here, it shows that it's optional. So I have to go and then disable this before I can come back to setup and then delete the security question. So if I also want to delete this one, I can go ahead and delete the Google Authenticator and the use Okta Verify. Now, one thing that I have to also let you know is that, like I said earlier, never use security question as a form of verification. So the other thing we want to look at is authentication policy. So authentication policy here determines there are policies that determines how you want your users to get access to the Okta dashboard. So we have the Okta dashboard here. These are other ones that I've created. So we have the Microsoft 365. How do you want your users to get access to the Microsoft 365? And then how do you want the users to get access to the Okta admin console? Now, when you look at the Okta dashboard here, this Okta dashboard, I already have different what do we call it? I have different policies that I've created. But for example, let me just go ahead and then just deactivate everything. Right, I'm going to this one is deactivated, and this one is also okay. This one was already deactivated. I can go ahead and then let me just delete everything. So that, yeah. So normally, whenever this is sign in rule. This is delete this one here. Okay. So basically, whenever, let me go ahead and take this one off. Okay. So the authentication policy determines how you want your users to authenticate into the Okta dashboard tenant, which is really good because this is when you set up all the policy. So now, this for the first time, or the first thing you're going to do, for example, if you want to add another rule to it, you can click here to add a rule. And when you before that, when you come to rule, when you open it, the main page is the rules. When you look at the application, this is an application. So this is an application. This is the Okta application. This is a dashboard application, right? So you can decide to switch or move this application. So for example, let's say I want to create a new policy. Let's say add a policy. I'm going to call this policy Okta dashboard policy, right? I can click on save, and then this is what I did. This is the catch up all rule. The catch up all rule actually is a rule that works if there is no rule that has been created, or if there's no policy that has been created by the admin. So basically what happens is that when I come to application, I can click on add app, and then I can say that I want the Okta dashboard add anyway. So when I go to when I come here, when I come to the main Okta dashboard, you see that there is no app. The applications are the policies are there, but there is no, the app is not showing, right? But that is the custom way. So I can go ahead and then customize whatever I want to customize. But let me come back, and then if you want to add the app again, you can click on add, and then Okta dashboard, you click on it, and then you can add it. Now you need to set up a policy. So how do you want the users to get access to their Okta dashboard? So the first thing is the Okta dashboard, and then you click on add rule. So this is how you can specify the rule, and you can call this one, let's say, test rule, or let's say admins. However, you want only the admins to get access to the Okta dashboard. So they will be the admins, and you can specify that if the user type is any user type and the user group membership is. So you can specify the group. Let's say the security group. So maybe if you want how you want the security guys to authenticate to get access to the Okta dashboard, you can specify that. So we have the security group, and you have it, and the user is any user, and the device state is any. So for example, if you're talking about registered, that would be for if the device is registered with Okta, however you want this particular policy to apply to the user. So if the person is part of the security group, and then if the user is any user in the organization or any user, right? And the device platform is any platform, right? And the user IP is any IP, could be any IP, where maybe the person in the security group is working from, let's say, China, and the company is in America. So where the user IP is any IP in the world, and the user is trying to get access to the Okta dashboard, how access should be allowed. The user must authenticate with, let's say, a password plus another factor. So when you click on this, you can specify, you can say like, well, you want only the users to authenticate using only password. And now when you come here, the real authentication frequency will be, let's say, every time the user is signing in, the authentication factor should pop up. Or you can say that authentication frequency will be never re-authenticate if the session is still active. So if the user session is still active, you should not authenticate. So for example, if I click on this and I go to next, let me show you something real quick. And I decide that let me add a security group to Chris. Okay, so let me open Chris here and sign Chris out. Okay, so when Chris signs in, it will definitely ask for a password. Okay, so you see that Chris signed in using the password. Now, let's go back to the policy, the authentication policy. So when you look at this policy here, it is saying that this is it. It's saying that the person should authenticate using only the password. And the real authentication frequency is never re-authenticate if the session is still active. So if the person is real authentication after. So let's say if the session log out, let's say the person can re-authenticate maybe after 2 hours. So if the person account is logged out and the person is still trying to get into it, it will not require the person for a password unless it is 2 hours later. So after 2 hours and the person is trying to get access to it, then it will ask the person for the password. But if not, no. So in order to tighten things, you can put it in at every signing attempt. So if the person ideal session is what we call, if the person's session logs out, you want the person, if the person is trying to get into it, the person has to put in the password. Then this is the security feature. Now on a normal computer, for example, if whenever you are setting up a password policy in group policy, that is Active Directory group policy, you always make sure that if the person's computer ideal session log out, right? So for example, if the person logs out right now like this, and maybe the person was doing something, and the person now comes and then realize that, well, the computer has logged out. If the person clicks on it, it should require the person the password, right, before the person can get into the session again. That is exactly the same thing. So if Chris is here, and maybe Chris is working here, right? Maybe Chris click on an application, and Chris working on a different application on a different tab. This is going to log Chris out, but the session will still be active. So if Chris is trying to get back into the Okta session, or if it is the Okta dashboard, it will require Chris to put in the password. If you put it in never authenticate, you are putting everybody at risk. So it has to always be at every signing attempt, right? You can go ahead and click save, and then that'll be. So that is authentication policy. The other one is you want your users. So when you come back here, so for example, let's say the user must authenticate using, let's say, a possession factor. So the possession factor will be the Okta verifier that the person has. So when you click on phishing resistance, the phishing resistance is going to be the Okta verify. So it's here, it says that if the Okta fastpass is used, the user must approve a prompt in Okta verify or provide biometrics. So if I select on possession factor, which has to do with phishing resistant, it will automatically say exclude phone and email authenticators, right? So now what I'm doing is that this is going straight to passwordless, right? The passwordless simply means the password simply means that we don't want the users to authenticate using password, but we want them to authenticate to verify the identity using the Okta verify. So if I click on this save, and then I come back to, if Chris is trying to get access to his account, let me sign Chris out, and then Chris click on next, you see that it is saying no, it is not really requiring Chris to do that. The reason why it's not requiring Chris to do that is because here it's still here, the fastpass is still enabled, but I think that what was blocking it was because I have not created a fastpass. I have not installed Okta Verify on my computer. So when I was trying to verify Chris' identity, I selected, let me show you, I selected phishing resistance. So with the phishing resistance, it was no good. It was not calling the Okta fastpass to come and then for Chris to use. So that was the reason why it was blocking it, because I've enabled Okta fastpass, right? So for example, let me show you something real quick. Authenticators here. When I show you this, the Okta fastpass is enabled, but just that it's not really showing on Chris. When you come back to signing, you see that it's not really showing, but it's enabled. So the only time it will show is when I click on show sign Okta fastpass, and then I refresh Chris browser. You see that it's showing. So that is the reason. So I think that's I forgot to show. That's the reason why it was really not working. But I can go ahead and then authenticators. Let me go ahead and just, because I'll come back and then show you how all this thing works. Okay. So all right. So when you look at this policy here, the Okta dashboard policy. All right. So when you look at here, it's saying that Okta verify. Now, when you click on if you click on phishing resistance, which simply means that the phishing resistance is the Okta fastpass. It's going to call the Okta fastpass, that is the Okta verify application on the desktop. So it's going to call it. And I think that is the reason why it was having issues with it, right? Let me show you another one so that you see when you come to the admin side. The admin here, it was requiring Okta verify. Let me see, possession factor and phishing resistance. This will go for everybody. Okay, so right now you see this policy here is for only the security group. This policy here is not for anybody, it's for everybody, because if you realize I specify in this policy that if the user group membership is the security group, then this is how I want the security people to sign into the Okta dashboard. So I can go ahead with this. So this policy is for everybody. With this one, I'm saying that the Okta verify should call out, because when you look at here, I selected phishing resistant. So if it's phishing resistant, then it should call the Okta verify on the desktop so that it will authenticate using the Okta verify. So I'm going to sign out real quick. When you look at the dashboard, this is Irene. I'll click on sign out. And if I want to log in, you look at what is going to happen. You see that yes, it has called the Okta verify, because the Okta verify on this one is on the desktop and it works with the Okta FastPass. So when I click on yes, it's me, it will verify my identity without any password. So this is just passwordless. Let me go and refresh this. This one has to log out too. Yes. So okay. Great. All right. So that is for the dashboard, right? So you can specify, you can say that, for example, let's say remote users. Let's say remote users. Oh. Now, the remote users here is actually talking about how you want your remote users to get access to the Okta platform. So you can see that, well, here, if the user type is in the user type in the user group. Now the user type actually, well, I'm not really going into that because that is not more of the security side. It's not a security side. So let me show you something. Let me go to directory groups and then create another group. Let's say, let me call this group, let's say system engineers, or is it remote users? Okay, let me call this, let me make this one remote users. Okay, remote users. So now let's go back to security and go to authentication policy. So the Okta dashboard, I will select the Okta dashboard. So now I'm creating a rule, and that rule is going to define how I want my remote users to get access to the Okta dashboard. So now I'm saying that if the user type is any user type and the user group membership is, let's say, at least one of the following groups. So I go to remote and click on remote. Now here, and none of the following groups, this one is not really important, so you just have to leave it. And the user is any user. When you click on this, it's going to show, if you click on at least, and the user is at least this user. So for example, let's say I want to be specific. I want this particular user. So for example, can I say that I want Chris? I want, let's say, Ross. So for example, let me show you something. So let's say you have two users, right? You have Chris and you have Rose Bowling. So you want, and these two people are remote users. So because they are remote users, for example, let's say they are in China, right? Let's say they are in China, or they are working from, let's say, Russia, right? But because that place might be a security zone for the organization, you want to specify how these two people how these two guys how they should get access to the Okta dashboard. So you can specify that, okay, I want these particular users, whenever they are getting access to the Okta dashboard. Let's say if they are using any device, right? If they are using any device, and then the device platform, you can specify. They are different devices. So here you can select the device that you want. So if you say that maybe the device that they are using is Mac OS, or Windows or other desktop or other mobile. This one, you don't really choose it. If you say that maybe you want, if you say, let's say for example Windows, which simply means that this policy will only apply to them whenever they are using Windows platform. If they are using, let's say, Mac OS, this policy will not apply. So for example, let's say Chris gets a new Mac OS, and Chris is trying to get access to the Okta. Because the policy has not specified that Chris, the platform is Mac. Chris, this policy cannot work on Chris. No. So normally what you do is that you don't really select anything. You just leave it if there is any platform. So if the device platform any, so if Chris decide to use Mac, either Mac, Linux or Windows, this policy will apply to Chris. And the user IP is any IP. So with this one, there are different IP. You have the any network zone defined in Okta, any in any of the following zones, not in any network zone defined in Okta, not in any of the following zones. So here you can say that any IP. So for example, this can be a roaming person. So let's say Chris goes to China, Chris goes to Saudi Arabia, Chris go to Africa, and he gets IP address. So any IP address that Chris will try to use, this policy has to apply to Chris. So now you can say that then access is allowed because you want them to get access to the Okta dashboard. So you can say that, well, then access is allowed after successful authentication. So the user must authenticate using password plus another factor. So you can say that, well, I want these two people should use password plus another factor to get access to the Okta dashboard. So then you have to go and then uncheck this. So now when you come here, it's going to tell that if Okta FastPass is used, the user must approve a prompt in Okta Verify. So now you want Chris to use password plus Okta Verify. Then you can come here and specify that if the session the ideal session time, the user have to re-authenticate at every time the person is signing in. If the person is if the session logs out, right? Every signing attempt, you click on save. So now you can go ahead and then click save anyway, and you can see the policy here. This is a remote user. So whenever Chris, so you see that I added rows. So this time I'm not even going to use Chris. I'm going to use rows. So this will be RB. I'll click next. You see that it is requiring for a second factor verification, right? Even though I've not entered the password, but it's requiring for a second factor verification. The reason is very simple. The reason is because I have not really added Chris and then rows to the what do we call it? Let me check real quick. Let me go back and then check the group. Yes, the remote users group. So let me go ahead and then add these two people to the remote users group. So people, and then let me go to groups, and we have remote users. So currently there's nobody in the group, so I have to add them to the group. So I come to groups here, and I come to Chris, add Chris, and then add rows also to the group. Okay, great. So now I've added them to the group. Let me go back here again, and then let me go back to back sign in and refresh this page again. Refresh, and then click on next. You see that now it's asking for the password because it did not work. The reason why it did not work is because I did not add them to the group. And because I did not add them to the group, the policy was not working, because according to the policy that I defined here, this policy is saying that, what is the policy? The remote users. The policy says that the user has to authenticate using the password and then the Okta Verify. But at first one, I think is the first one that was working. So here, when if Rose is working from China and the Rose type in the password, it's going to require you Rose to the second factor authentication will be the Okta Verify. So when she click on get a push notification, Rose will receive the verification on the phone, and then hit on yes, it's me, and then Rose will be able to log in, and then she can go ahead and then get access to his application. So that is how this one works. I think that it's almost 2 hours. My time is up. Okay. All right. So that is how this this policy works. Let me show you. I decided to show you the password before I end this. I have to show you the password policy. I'll do a part 2 of this because the time is really fast going. All right, so we have the authenticators. Now, when you come to the authenticators, if you come to password here, let me start with the password, and you click on actions and you click on edit, it is going to show you the password policy, right? So this is the password policy. Let me click on default. When you click on default, you see that this is the default policy by Okta, but I've made some changes to it. When you click on edit, you can specify the minimum length to, let's say, maybe to 10. You can specify the minimum length. You can decide that, well, you don't want the users in the organization to use a lowercase, but you want them to use uppercase and maybe probably be numbers. If if it is compulsory, the complexity, you want them to use lowercase. You can also, so this is where you configure the password policy, enforce password history for the last 4 passwords. So if the user has used, let's say, 4 passwords, the system is going to remember the user last 4 passwords, and then it will not really allow the user to use the same password. It will ask the person to change for a new for a new password. Then we have the minimum password age, which is the 2 hours. The password expires after 100. So you can specify whether you want the password to expire or not, and then you can click on it. The prompt user 5 days before password. So before, if you want the user's password to expire within 120 days, you can select the prompt. So the users will receive a prompt 5 days before this particular policy will work. So normally these days you don't have to, the user password shouldn't be expired. So always you can leave this one out. So the logout user after 10 unsuccessful attempts, this one is too much. Let me make it 6. So here you are defining policy. You are saying that whenever the user try to sign in and then try for this for 6 times and the person is not able to sign into the account, that means that the account should be locked out. And okay, so for example, let me show you something real quick. Let me go ahead and sign out. This is the security session. So click on this. Let me just type password. Let's see. Okay, that's 1. Then this is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. This is 6. Now let's try the 7th time. This is 7. All right. So which simply means that now the account has been logged out. Now I have to enable something so that it will write on top here that your account has been logged out. Yeah. So even if I try to, oh, sorry, yes, I haven't, hold on a minute, I haven't saved the policy. So I think that's the reason why it's not working. So you see that here it says show logout failures, right? And send a logout email to the user. So you have to enable this, and then account is automatically unlocked after 60 minutes. So when I take on this will work, but you should never take on this one, because if the account is locked, the user should call the server desk so that they unlock the account for the person. If you take this, an attacker can wait for 60 minutes for the account to unlock and then try the brute force attack again. So normally you have to uncheck this one. So now let me implement this policy and then look at what is going to work, what is going to happen. So let me come back again and then try to verify. So the first one did not work because I did not implement the password policy. So that is the reason why it wasn't showing anything. So let's see. I don't know how many times I've done it. Okay, I think this is the 7th one. So now Let me try to put in the actual password and let's see what is going to happen. Okay, so now I have the actual password, but it's not working. Okay, so let's go to peep the directory and see if her account is logged out. So you see that here, this is Rose, is showing that her account is logged out, right? But she did not receive it, but here is showing that the account is logged out. So if the person, let's say if somebody called you from calls the service desk and said that, oh, I've been trying so many times, I'm not able to get access to my account. So the first thing you do is that you search for the name of the person, and then you come and check the directory to see the name of the person. If the person is logged out, you can go here and then unlock the person's account. Unlock, and the person's account is unlocked. All right. So if the person come back again and then type the password, yes, the person can go ahead and then get access into it. Okay, there you go. All right. The other thing is that let me see. Let me check something real quick here. I think that I received an email that somebody's account was locked. Okay, so normally, let me show you something real. Oh, it's even up here. So you see it here. So you see that here, the admin. So the following user reached the maximum login attempt. Please reset the user password to re-enable login. So because I was trying to log in so many times and the account was logged out, an email was sent to the admin, telling the admin that, well, that what do we call it, somebody's account, right, this particular person. So it only shows the email. So it shows the email telling the admin that, well, this person's account has been logged out, re-enable login. So you don't just enable the login. What you can do is that you can now go ahead to the logs. So when you come here to the logs, when you come to reports and you come to system logs, this is where you are going to find out the person who was trying to sign in so many times and then he or she wasn't able to be successful. So when you look at this one here, look at it. When you look at here, it shows logged out, right? So for this, so many times that I try to get access to it, you see here it gives you the time, the name of the person, and then the credentials. So we say that we says what, failure, and then invalid credentials. Then here the other one was saying that it logged the person out. Then I kept on trying again, invalid credentials. It logged the persons out, invalid credentials. So you see that the time has been recorded, and it keeps on logging the persons out and the invalid credentials. So the more I keep on trying, the person is logged out, right? So all to the time that what we call it, I activate the person's account, and then he what do we call it? So here you see that it's saying that Irene Shane user account unlocked by admin. So whatever activity that Irene, who is the admin for this tenant, did has been recorded that, well, this person unlocked the account. And you can click on here to look at the activity, like everything that went on. So you see that it shows the actor who is Irene, and it shows the client that is what the Irene used. The other thing is it shows the successful user account unlocked by admin, right? So you can see this. So this is the other thing also that you can do. All right, so let's go to oh wow, there's a lot of things to look at. All right, so let's look at the last thing, and then I think that we can end this. All right, so so now we are done with the dashboard, because so now you can see it. You can see I have shown you how to do this. You can go ahead and then do it. The other thing is that when you come to the admin console, so this is the admin console. When you come to apps, when you click on this, it brings you here. So the admin console is actually recommended by Okta that you have to set up another authentication policy, so that if the users are trying to get access, if any admin is trying to get access to the Okta admin, they need to verify the identity. It's very, very important because that is where everything works. So when you look at the policy that I've set up here, I have set up a policy. When I click on the edit, I've set up a policy that the name of the policy is admin-rule, and I said that if the user type is any user, in the user group membership includes the admin group, then the user, and if the user is any user and the device state is any state and the IP address is any IP, then you should allow access after successful authentication. So the user must authenticate with password and another factor. So the other factor is the Okta Verify, but I've not really specified whether it should be the Okta FastPass or anything like that. And then re-authenticate after 2 hours, right? Okay. So how does this thing work? So this thing works. Let me intentionally sign out from this. So sign out. When I try to log in, you see that it's asking me for the username. Yes, it's me. Why did it? Oh, yes, because it was still in the session. So, okay. So, okay, great. So now I want to get access to the admin dashboard. When I click on the admin, you see that it's asking me for the password. So it's going to be the password and the Okta Verify. So the Okta Verify set up. Yes, it's me. So now I can get access to the Okta dashboard. So this is the policy that I created, authentication policy, and this policy is for the admin console policy. So you see that it's saying the password and then Okta Verify. Great. All right, let me go ahead and close this one, and I'll show you another thing also. So that is for the authentication policy. The other one is the global session policy. Now, the global session policy is what defines how users, how the users should authenticate to get access to their Okta dashboard. It determines the sessions of the users. It also determines the user session. So, for example, when you look at the default policy, this is the default policy. So, the default policy here is that if the user IP is anywhere and a person authenticate via anything, then establish the user session with any factor that meet the authentication policy requirements. So the authentication policy requirement that I use, then the multi-factor authentication is not required. So this is the policy for the global. That is the default policy, but you can change this. So you can go ahead and then add a policy. I've already created different policies. This is the admin group, this is the global session for test, and then network zone. So I have my network zone global session policy. If a person is in the network zone, let me show you something. So if somebody is in the corporate network, that means that the person is working from the office. We will see that if the user IP is in zone, when you click here, we have anywhere, in zone, and not in zone. So if the person is in zone and the zone is the corporate network, that means that the person is working from the office, and identity provider is Okta, which is the Okta tenant, and then the person authenticates via any authentication, then allowed access. When you allowed access, which is great, so we can say that establish the user session with any factor used to meet the authentication policy. So multi-factor authentication is not required because the person is working from the office. So if the person is working from their office, the person is on the office network, that is the corporate network. So normally you don't really require the person to use MFA, right? So this is not required. Now when you come to the global session management, the global session management is very, very important. You see that normally when you set up the Okta for the first time, this will be on no time limit. This is dangerous. The reason why it's dangerous is because you see that here the second one, set time limit, is recommended by Okta. What you are saying, what this policy is actually saying is that, or what this feature is saying, that whenever a person signs into Okta for the first time, the person's cookie session the person's session cookie should not really expire. it should be like it should be there forever and ever. That is no time limit. So the global session will expire even if no. So basically, what it means is that the person's session cookie should not really expire, and this is dangerous because the cookies can be hijacked by attackers. So Okta has made a recommendation that you have to set the expiration date. So as you can see here, it says setting a maximum session lifetime reduces the risk of session cookies misuse or hijacking. So the global sessions will expire even if no maximum ideal time is set. So even if you don't set this one, this global session will definitely set in. So here, what you can do is that you can set it up to either 1 day or you can set it up to 9 hours. So the 9 hours simply means that whenever the users in the organization, when they log in into to start work, within from the time that they log in to the time that they will sign off from work, and maybe another plus extra hour, which is the 9 hours, the session cookies should expire. So the next day, if the user comes to work and the user start work again, then the new session will start. But if you do not really set this one, and you just, let's say for example, you just leave it to the 9 days, which simply means that the person cookie session will still be active for the next 9 days, and after 9 days the cookie session will expire. This thing is still dangerous because if the attacker get hold of the person or the session cookies, it can be problem. So normally you can go ahead and set this one to 9 hours. This one is the maximum Okta global session ideal time. So the ideal time basically is when the person is inactive. So if the user is inactive for maybe like 30 minutes, then what we call the person's account should log out. Right, so that's why it says that a global session will expire when the user is inactive for a specific amount of time. So if the person is not really active for the next 30 minutes, the person will be logged out. Will be logged out from Okta. So that is it. So you can go ahead and then update this. All right. So that is it. So let's start from the basics. Let's go ahead and let's say start a new policy. So for example, depending on whatever policy that you want to create. Now I have my outside of the network zone. So for example, let's say I've created a network policy. Before this, okay, so let's say add a policy, and let's say MFA requirement. Let's say I want my users. I can go and then search for everyone group, create policy and add rule. All right, so this one will be the MFA rule. So for example, let's say I want the users who are working remotely to require them for MFA, right? So I type the name MFA rule. Now I'll say that if the user IP is anywhere in the world, anywhere, and the identity provider is, let's say, Okta, or let's just put it, let's just leave it to any, and the identity provider is any, and then the person authenticate via in authentication form platform, then allow access. So allowing access, you can say that you can deny access. When you deny access, then everything will go out. All right, allow access. Now you can also say that what establish the user session with any factor to use to meet authentication policy. You can also select password, but you don't want to do that. Always select the first one. Now multi-factor authentication should require. So which simply means that anybody, this is basically for like this is going for everybody. So let's say it's going for everybody because of how I set it up. So multi-factor authentication should require, and users will be prompted for at every sign-in. That is the first one. When signing in with a new device cookies. So if the person is signing in with a new device, it should not require the person MFA. After MFA lifetime expires for the new cookie. So and that is it. So if the MFA lifetime expires for the new for the device cookie, like the one that we were talking about earlier, like here, then what it means is that is when the MFA will trigger. But I'm going to be honest with you, you don't have to do that. It has to be at every sign-in. That is for the remote users. If the remote users are trying to get access to Okta, at every sign-in, it should require MFA, because you want to achieve zero trust, because you don't know whether the person signing into Okta is actually the person, is the user. So the user has to verify the identities. Then that is the reason why you require MFA, and it has to be at every signing. Then you can come here and then set the limit to, this one says 30 days, but I want only, let's say, 1 day. And then the maximum of the global session, it should never be 12 hours. It should be in 1 hour, the person is not really doing anything and is still there, it should lock the person out. So now this policy applies to everybody, but I can go ahead and then say that I want only for the remote users. So I can click remote users, update it. So anybody that is in the remote user group, this policy will apply to the user. Yes, anybody that is in the remote user group, this policy will apply to the user. So that is it. All right. So yeah, that is for the global session policy. Okay, let me just delete this policy. I'll come back and then show you something real quick. So the other security side that we are going to also look at is the network. All right, we have the network. All right, so you can see that I have configured I have this IP address is not really a good IP address. I intentionally put it here. So I have configured the IP address. Now the network zone, so currently there are two network zones. We have the IP zone and dynamic zone. The IP zone here determines, let's say for example, the gateway IPs that you want to allow and the gateway IPs that you want to block. So for example, let's say you want to block some IP address, you can put it in and say, let's say attack blocked attackers IPs. Oh, all right. So you then go ahead and then click on block access from IPs matching this condition. So now you can specify this. Let's say if the attacker IP is 88. Let's say 10.72.10, what is going to happen is that you click on this, you see that block attacker, where is it? This is it. So this is the rule. So here, any IP address that matches this, it is going to Okta is going to block that particular IP address from getting access to the network. So this is active. You can go ahead and then put it in inactive, and then you can even go ahead and edit it. You can go ahead and then add some to it, add other ones to it, right? The other thing is that you can delete this. You can delete this IP address, right? That is it for it. The other one is that you can allow zone. So you can create a zone. So for example, let's say IP zone. So for example, let's say you have your company's gateway. So you can say that HQ, that's headquarters. And then you can add the gateway IP addresses to it. So let's say the gateway IP address at HQ is, let's say 78.10.1.1, right? So this is the HQ, let's say gateway. You can add another one. Let's say, you can add another one to it. Let's say the other one is, let's say 96.3.10.1. So here, that will be HQ, right? Great. So we have, this is the HQ gateway IP addresses, which is great. This is the gateway the HQ IP addresses. So now, how does this thing work? All right. So I'm going to show you how this thing works. The other thing is that you can also go ahead and then block with a dynamic zone. You can set up a condition for IT type and the location. So for example, let's say you want to block some countries, right? Let's say you want to block, block some countries. Let's say block, let me just give it a name, block countries, right? Now you have to select this. Now selecting this is going to block these countries that I'm going to select. So you click on block. Now the IP type could be any IP type. When you click on here, it's going to show you proxy and all that kind of stuff. You just have to leave it at any. The location here, that is when you click on it and then you select the country. So it could be Afghanistan. and you can even go ahead and then select the state. Bengali, Bangladesh, whatever you call it. I'm sorry, but if I don't know how to pronounce it. So let's say like you want to block India. Let's say Indians have been messing up with your network, so you want to block India. So you click on, you type India, and then this is India. So you can also specify the city. So when you say that you want, my favorite city is Delhi. Let me check Delhi. So now, so when you select Delhi, what is happening here is that anybody outside Delhi can get access to your Okta tenant, right? So anybody who is working outside Delhi can still get access to your tenant. But yes, so you can go ahead and then just delete this one and then add India to it. Let me add India. Let me add China to it. Now, so it's a block countries, right? So now, basically what this rule is going to do is that it's going to block anybody that is coming from these countries that is trying to get access to it. So for example, let me go ahead and then rename this block countries 2, because I already have block countries that are for my demo, right? So we have the block countries. So now this block countries here simply means that it's going to block anybody that is working in these countries will not be able to get access to your Okta tenant. That is one. Okay, the other one is that you can specify. So for example, let's say one of your workers is going to China, right? One of your workers is going to China, and because she's going to China, she might work from China, right? She might work from China. So what you can tell the team managers or the HR is that if anybody is going outside America and the person will be working, the person should give the country that he or she is going to, so that you can allow that zone. So for example, let's say that I decided to block all the countries, right? Let's say I decided to let me just say any. Let's say I decide to block Australia, block, let's say, Belarus, and block, let's say, Belgium, right? I block all these countries, and one of our users, maybe one of the staff members, is going to, let's say, Belarus to work, right? So how do you go about this? Now the person has to reach out to the security team so that you can allow the zone. So you call this allow zone. Allow zone country. So let's say one is going to Belarus. So what you're going to do is that you can click on location here and then come and then type Belarus. This is Belarus. And let's say another person is also going to, let's say, to Mexico, right? So that you can go ahead and then maybe they'll be working from Mexico. And let's say maybe the CEO is going to, let's say, Spain, and he might be working from Spain. You can add Spain to it, and then you click on save. So basically what is happening is that you are saying that allow zone countries, Belarus, Mexico, and then Spain, and we are block countries. That is Afghanistan, Belarus, Belgium. When you click on see all, you're going to see China, India, and then Belgium, right? Great. So basically, now this rule here is effective, but the other thing that you can also do is that you have to set up a policy, because when you do this, it hasn't really worked. You have to set up a policy, right? So you have to set up a policy. Now the policy will be the authentication policy. So let's go to authentication policy here, and then let's go to Okta dashboard policy. So now we are going to create a new policy. So add rule. So we are going to say that if anybody is from, let's say, allowed zone country, right? So if anybody is from the allowed zone country, so now that is the rule. So we are saying that if the user type is any user type, and the person or the user group membership is any group, right? And then the device state is any device. The IP address, okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So we are saying that if the user type is any user, the person is any part of any group, you can just leave it like that. And the device platform is any platform, as we looked at earlier. And the user IP is not any, but you can say that if the user IP is not in zone. So for example, let's go, the not in zone simply means that the corporate office. So we are saying that in any network zone defined in Okta, in any of the following zones. So if the person is not in zone, so not in any network zone, not in any of the following zones. So if the person is not in this zone, and we have to specify the zone. So we have the allow countries, we have the corporate network zone, we have the HQ. So if the person is not in, let's say, in the allow country, but in a different country, that is when maybe you can specify that. But so for example, let's say if the person IP is in zone, in any of the following zone, so you specify the zone, allow countries. So now allow countries, because the person is going to any of the allow countries, what we are going to do is that we want the person, let's say for example, then access is what allowed after successful authentication. So we want the person who is going to this particular the countries that we specify, we want the person to use the Okta verify to get access to it, and we want the person, the password authentication should be every signing attempt. Authentication frequency for all factor is every signing attempt. So now this is how we want it. This is how we want the users to authenticate to get access to the Okta dashboard. That is the password and then Okta verify. So now we can go ahead and click save. So when you look at the rule here, we have the allow zone country. When you come to the group, the next thing is that do you want them to do you want those users to go through MFA? So you have to go and then configure MFA policy. So you can come to global session policy, add policy here, and type allowed MFA for allowed zones, right? And then you can just leave it like that. It will, let's just put it to everyone and then create policy and add rule. So here we can name the rule MFA allowed for MFA for allowed zone countries. Allows zone countries. So here we're saying that if the user IP is, then you come here and say not in zone, or let's say if you click on not in zone, you have to specify the zone. So if the person is not in, the not in zone is if the person is not part of the zone that you've specified. So for example, if the person is not in the HQ will be here, right? But that's not what we're looking for. We are saying that if the person is in zone, so if the person is part of the zone that we specify, so the zone is allow country zone. So allow country zone here, allow country zone, and identity provider is any authentication via any, then access is allowed because the person, the worker, is going to the allowed zone that we've created. So we want the person, we want to require MFA. The person has to go through MFA, and the MFA should be at every sign-in. We will set the global Okta global session lifetime. It should be the time that the person log in. It should be 9 hours. So after 9 hours, or we can say that after 1 day. So 1 day, because the person is going to allow zone, normally you have to be very, very strict on that. And then this one should be 30 minutes. The ideal session time should be 30 minutes. So I can go ahead and then click on 30 minutes, and then you create this rule, right? That is for the allowed zone. Now we can create another policy to block people. So for example, if let's say this is for blocked zone, we have policy and then assign to everyone. So create this policy and create a rule. This will be blocked zone, blocked not in zone. All right, so here or we say blocking zone. Okay, let's say blocked zone. Blocked zone. So basically, what we are trying to achieve, what we are trying to say is that the countries that we selected to block, we have to configure a global session policy for those for that particular people, and it could be 3 or it could be 2, but we are using the global session policy. So we're saying that if the user IP is in zone, it's not in zone. So now let's specify the zone. The zone is, let's see, okay, block. Okay, so if the person is not in if you pick HQ, that would be crazy. So if the person is not in the allow zone countries, right? So this is for the allow zone countries. So if the person is not in the allow zone countries, and the person is not part of the HQ, and the person is not part of, let's say, the remote users that we've created, allow remote users, and the person is not, so this is allow zone countries, HQ. This is the corporate network, and this is for the remote users zone that we've created. So if the person is not any of this particular zone, then what do? Then access should be denied. So basically, if anybody is not in this allowed zone that we created, the HQ, the remote user zone allowed, then we want to block these particular people. So basically, this policy, even though when you come to the network, right, and then you have already specified the block countries, that these are the block countries, right, it will still block it. But you can go and then also specify it. You can also go and then specify it. So we have the block country. So it's going to block all these people. It's also going to block all these people. The authentication policy here to the Okta dashboard, there's another one also that you can also look at it. For example, you can say that, for example, you can say that you don't want the users to get access to the Okta dashboard, right? So let's say we can say block zone. Oh, sorry about that. Blocked zone. So you said that if the user type is any user type, the group membership is any group, the user is any user, and the device state is any device, the platform is any platform, and the user IP is in any network zone defined by Okta or any of the following zone. So you can say that you can put up the zone. Now, normally this what do we call it? So in any of the following zones, so if the user IP address is in any of the following zone, you can allow. But if the user IP address is not in any of the following zones, just like we did in the global session policy, the global session policy is a global one. This one basically is for only for the Okta dashboard. So if the user IP is not in the following zones, one, which has to do with allow zone countries, HQ, remote users, and the corporate network. So if the user IP address is not in any of this one, then what we can do is that you can deny access. So here too, you can deny access. You can block the people from getting access to this. So you can go ahead and then click on save. Now, I'm sure somebody is going to ask, okay, what is the difference between this one and the global session policy? So with the global session policy here, this is where we defined the MFA, right? We defined the MFA that we want the users to authenticate via MFA. The block zone, you can use the authentication policy to block the people from getting access to the Okta dashboard. Now, when you look at the block zone that I created here, I'm saying that if that is the rule name, you can exclude some users. You can also exclude some users. If maybe somebody is working in, let's say, in Pakistan, you can exclude the person from here. Right? You can type in the name of the person. Let's say Chris is working in Pakistan. You can exclude Chris from it, so that Chris, this policy will not apply to Chris. So here we are saying that this is the block zone for the globe. That's what we are saying, the global session policy. So we are saying that if the user IP address is not in zone, and these are the not in zone IP that we created. This is the HQ, gateway that we created, the allow zone countries, and the remote, for this, for the only remote users. And the remote users here are the, I'm just talking about the remote in anywhere in the country, right? And with the remote user zone policy we created, we specified those people. It was 2 people that we added to the remote user zone policy that we created, right? So this is for the remote user zone. And then if any IP address is coming outside these particular ones, then we are blocking that particular person. But we are excluding this person because this person probably will be going to, let's say, the high risk zone. And Chris is only Chris that can get access to the Okta tenant. But anybody apart from Chris cannot. So if there's an attacker who is trying to get access to trying to harvest or steal the credentials of any of the users from China to get access to the Okta tenant, because we set up a rule or a policy, the person cannot get access to the Okta tenant. So let's go ahead and click update. So that is the difference between the authentication policy and then the global session policy, right? But if, let's say, for example, when you look at the MFA for allowed zone, we said that if anybody is coming from the allowed zone countries, then we want those people to go through MFA. Yes, we want them to go through, and we want to implement MFA for anybody who is coming from the allowed zone countries. You have to go through MFA before you can get access to it. So that is the policy that we created. So I'm sure that you have really understood this. The more you do hands-on, the more you understand this. All right, so the last one that we are going to look at, so now we've looked at networks, we look at this one. Those are the most important ones. Identity providers, this one not important. Delegate, this one not important. We are looking at the device integration. So with the device integration, should I even talk about device integration now? No, device assurance policy. Yeah, sorry. So with the device assurance policy, it is also very, very important. Just a minute. So we have the device assurance policy. The device assurance policy is a policy that you create to enforce policy on what do we call it? You enforce policy on your devices. So for example, let's say you want to create a policy for Mac, for Windows. You can say that this is let's say Windows policy. So you can say that if somebody is using Windows laptop or Windows device to get access to the Okta dashboard, then the Windows the device has to meet this minimum Windows version. So for example, we can specify that we want the operating system has to be, let's say, Windows 10 with a 22H build or above. Anything below this cannot get access to the Okta dashboard. At least the minimum has to be the Windows 10 22H and then above. Any what do we call it? Any operating system that is below this particular version cannot get access to Okta. But the other security feature is that even though if the operating system meets this minimum version, the lock screen with the Windows Hello must be enabled. Right, the Windows Hello must be enabled. The TPM has to also be enabled. So for example, if I click on this, right, and then I save this, what this rule is saying is that if a user is trying to get access to our Okta tenant, so let's say the person is an attacker and the person has been able to breach every policy that we've created, right? The person has been able to breach every policy that we've created. Now, if the person operating system does not meet this particular policy, right, and the person's lock screen, that is the Windows Hello, is not enabled, and then the TPM is also is not enabled on the person's device, even though the person has breached all the IP policies that we created, if the person's operating system is not, let's say, Windows 10 22H and above, there is no way the person can get access to the Okta tenant. It will not work. it will not work. So that's another security. That's the reason why I'm showing this. I'm showing you this. So this is the security feature. You can also set up another policy for iOS. So for example, you know that whenever you are trying to authenticate into Okta, normally you have the Okta Verify on your phone. So if you have the Okta Verify on your phone, it means that you have to use the Okta Verify on your phone to authenticate. Now you can set up a policy here, a policy. So we say that policy for iOS. So you can see that the minimum OIS version to be on the phone in order to authenticate should be, let's say, iOS 16 and above or iOS 17 and above. That is the minimum, iOS 17 and above. But the lock screen passcode must be set. The touch ID or face ID must be enabled, and the device must not be jailbroken. So, for example, so when I set up this policy, if the attacker's operating system is, or let's say, for example, if the user in organizations minimum iOS version is less than 1.7, it simply means that the person cannot use the Okta Verify on the phone to authenticate to get access to the Okta tenant. So basically that's what it means. So you set up these policies actually for the users in the organization, and it's very good for compliance's sake, because the device has to meet the compliance policy that we've created. All right. The last one that I also want to show you is the administrators. When you come to administrators, so here we've already looked at it already. So this is where you come, and then these are the various roles that you have. We have the API Access Management Administrator, the build custom authorization server to protect your API endpoint. We have the group administrator manages users, their profiles and credentials. So as a security person, the principle of least privilege has to work. So you can say that, well, we don't want to give everybody the super admin. We want to give, let's say, the group administrator, depending on the person's role. So here, RBAC you have to implement RBAC in the organization. So we say that, well, we want the person to have a help desk administrator. So we can go here and click on this. Hold on a minute. Okay, so we can go here and then edit view or edit assignment or edit role notification. So you can click on the notification here, and this will show you the role notification, system notification. So whenever a user log out, the person get a notification, author communication, author releasing note and announcement, trust incident and updates, schedule system updates, everything will show up. So this will be separate from and as a complement to the service. Let me go ahead and then go to the next one for the sake of time. When you click on view or edit assignment, this is going to show you what the assignment that this particular person can do. So the role is the group administrator. The assignment here, there's currently no assignment that I've created. There's no resources that I've created, but when I come to resources like this, I can create a new resource set. Let's see, I can name this resource, let's say groups and users. Let's say just groups. So with these groups, I can add resources to it. Oh, I have not. Let me go and then create a resource set. Hold on a minute. All right. Resource. And then, hold on, let me check real quick. Okay. So before that, let me show you this one first. So you can create a new role, and then yes, this was what I was looking for. You can create a new role and call this role name. Let's say the role will be, let's say, administrator role, right? And then the permission that you want, maybe you want the person to manage users. So the users will be unlocked. The person will be able to unlock the users, suspend users, clear user sessions, deactivate the user, view user and their details, edit user authentication operation, reset user's password, set user temporary password, edit user profile attribute. So the person can do all this. The other thing is that, for example, manage group. When you click on manage group, it simply means that the person can do everything else that comes to a group. Then application, you can specify that, well, you don't want the person to view applications and the details or edit but the person, oh sorry, maybe like you want the person to be able to view the application and the details, but you don't want them to edit the user assignment. For the group membership, let's say for example you want the user to be able to create group, manage group membership, view group, but you don't want the person to edit the group assignment, like delete and that kind of stuff. So you can go ahead and then save this role, and then it should be here. Let me refresh it, and then you should see it here, and the role should be administrator role. There it is. So this is the administrator, right? You can click on, you can see that the type is custom. You can come to edit, and then you can delete the role, edit the role notification, view or edit assignment. So the role notification here, let me even go and check something here. All right, so whenever user logout provision, user provision, that will be the system notification that will come up, and this will be the Okta communication. This is coming from Okta. So let's say Okta releases notes and announcement, you are going to see it here. Trust incident, you're going to see schedules, system updates, you're going to see everything going on here. So that is a notification. Now, whenever you have this rule, you have to what do we call it? You can also come and then add resources to it, but I don't know. Yeah. So for example, let's say this is going to be, let's say, groups. Groups. So it's asking you to, let's say, resource set information. You want to add a resource to it. So here you can add groups to it, and then select groups. If you have any group that you've created, I don't have any group, but you can see that all groups, and then select, and then you can click on create. So that will be for the resource set. And then for the admin, these are the admins. So for example, if I want to add another administrator, I can click on add administrator, and then go and look for the person. The person that I want to give the role will be James. So I'll search for James, and then I'll search for the role that created, the administrator role that created. Now the resource set will be what the person, what do we call it? The resource set is the resource that are created. I have to attach the resource to James. That will be for the groups, right? So resource set include resources that are not affected by the permissions in the role, right? So I can go ahead and then click on save changes. Basically, we'll have to refresh this one. When you look at James is administrator, but when you look at the role, you see that we have edit assignment. When you come to the rows here, this is James, and you can edit his assignment. So view and edit assignment. So you can see this is the resource, the resource set. But what I'm looking for is, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Great. So you can preview James' role. James is an administrator. Here, his permission is to manage users. For all the users, group permission will be manage group membership, view groups and their details, and then create groups. And the other one is that James will be able to view applications and their details. Okay, great. So that is for it. So you can create custom roles. Right. You can create custom roles. So instead of you giving a super administrator to somebody, you can create a custom role, and then what do we call it? And then assign that custom role. You can assign that custom role to a user. And I think that you can even add what do we call it? You can add groups. So for example, let's say I have remote users group here. So here you can also assign an administrator, what we call it, administrator rule. So for example, this administrator rule, I have assigned this administrator with group this resource set to for the remote users. So let me go ahead and click save changes. So basically what I'm saying is that when it comes to groups, anybody who is in the remote users group have these permissions. Anybody who is in the remote users will have the administrator permissions to perform his or her job. So that's another thing. So for example, like instead of you giving individual access, you can select a group. You can create a group. Let's say, for example, let's say the security group, and then assign the administrator role so that they will all have the same permission. So if anybody is in that particular group, the person that is That is the permission that the person will have, and that is the what we call it, RBAC for you. That is based on their role. Then the person will get their what we call it, the permissions that they need. So this probably will, okay. The last one, I'm sorry, I said I was going to add the last one. This thing we have done with almost 3 hours. Okay, so the last one will be the report. This is very important. So when you come to report here, so we have the Okta usage. You can check for Okta usage. You can also check for the agent activity, that is the system log, application access, application membership change, policy activity, provision activity, system import activity. You can also look for the user app access, group membership, user account. These are all reports. So if, for example, if you want a report for the MFA enrollment by user, when you click on it, it takes you to the currently I think that I don't really have that report here. Okay, great. The other thing is that if you, for example, administrator report, you want to look at how many admin roles assignment, the number of people who have been assigned admin roles, you can request a report. You can click on request report, and then the admin will definitely get the report and look at all the roles. The other one here, so this is for the report side. When you come to the system log, so the system log I've already shown you, you can specify the reports. Maybe like this is from, let's say, December 31st to the January 7th. You can specify how, maybe if you want to go all the way to if you want to go to, let's say, in November, you can specify from November to, let's say, to the current time. And you can also change the time zone that you are in. And then, for example, so this will be the report. It's good. And you can also download this report. Currently there are 160,633 events that has been recorded in the system log. So you can download the CSV file and then look at everything that has gone on. You can click on download CSV file, the CSV, and then when you open it, right, you can check everything. So you can look at the information, the user type, the display name, if the user was able to access, if somebody was denied access, denied challenges, everything. And then you can also look at the IP address, which I'm going to you can look at the IP address, the computer that they used, right? Whether they used a computer, a tablet, anything like that. You can see which IP address is this. 35 Okta work. Let me check. Okta workflow. Oh, okay. So this is coming from the Okta workflow that I created. Okay, great. All right. So yes, and then you can also come here and then check other information that you want to look at. So we have the help desk flow. Okay, yeah, it's coming from Okta workflow. Where I created an Okta workflow. I think that is the reason why I'm showing all this. So yeah, you can download the report and then look at the report. The other thing is that you can also specify. So for example, you want to see maybe like you want to report on people who were able to successfully authenticate into a system. You can type event type and then EQ and then specify, let's say, users that authentication that SSO, and then put bring a quotation marks. And then this is, I think I did not get it right, SSO. Let me add another S to it, then search for it. All right, so this is going to pull all the users who successfully sign on into Okta. User single sign on to app. And it's showing from it can give you it can go to like January, depending on the time that depending on the date. So for example, when you look at the top here, I have it from November